For those who managed to wake up this morning, good sunny morning.
Good morning, everyone. We are very honored. It is a pleasure to be speaking about artificial intelligence, AI, today in front of you. AI is probably the most talked about topic in the technology world these days. And everybody talks about AI. And at McKinsey, we wanted to know if it was hype or reality. So we've got two big messages for you today. The first one, this isn't science fiction. It's happening now. It is real. And the second one, businesses cannot afford to ignore AI anymore. The leading AI expert, Andrew Ng, says artificial intelligence is the new electricity, that it will transform every sector of the economy. But let's be honest on that one. We've had many cycles about artificial intelligence. It's here since the 50s. We had the 70s, the 80s, the 90s. So why now? We found that there is both anecdote and evidence to suggest that this technology may now finally be blossoming. Let me give you a few examples. Machines can match, and even better, human performance. When it comes to recognizing image, accuracy is increasing all the time. 5 years ago, machines were able to identify, write 70% of the image they were processing, while humans were succeeding in 95% of the time. Now machines are at 96%, and we're still at 95%. Other examples. There are real-world applications of artificial intelligence that are changing the way we shop and consume entertainment. Netflix. Netflix is using artificial intelligence to learn what movies and series we like to watch. 4 out of 5 of the things we watch are things that Netflix algorithm have recommended. It's already made them $1 billion from reduced churn and increased sales. Another well-known example, Amazon. Amazon has invested, as you probably know, in intelligent warehouse robots. A massive $800 million purchase. But it's already paying off. They have decreased the click and ship time by 75%, from 1 hour to 15 minutes. So a lot of good signs that artificial intelligence is something real. But we wanted to analyze this in a profound and structured way. So we need a more systematical approach to see if it were the set of transformative technologies that so many have predicted to go beyond the anecdote. We contacted 3,000 C-suite decision makers, 10 countries, 14 sectors. We examined 160 use cases around AI, and we added to that our own experience with clients. So there are four questions that we are trying to answer in this discussion, in this study. First, who is investing and where? Second, who is adopting now AI? Third, how AI can impact business and society. Fourth, what do we need to do tomorrow morning? So Jacques, who is investing and where?
Yeah, Eric, before I can even answer one of these questions, let's define AI. Broadly speaking, at least for us, the Industrial Revolution was about machines enhancing muscles power. AI, the AI revolution, is indeed machines, but enhancing human brain power. Now, we're not going to give you an exact, detailed definition of AI. We leave it to the Facebook of this world to continue to debate about it. Let's just say for practical purpose and for the definition of the questions we want to answer, that this is a set of technologies, computer vision, natural language, virtual assistant, robotics, and automotive vehicles, all being underpinned by machine learnings. And all of the external investment that are coming to the system is already 56% from machine learning. Now, where is this investment coming from? First question of Eric. Well, the traditional suspects are indeed investing, i.e. the venture capital, the private equity guys. They're investing about 6 to 9 billion to date in the era of artificial intelligence. In one way, it is quite small. It's roughly 3% of the total VC funds today, but as you can see, they are incredibly growing their stake in AI, faster than other exciting types of investment, e.g. biotechnology. Now, what is more interesting is that besides this VC and PE funding, roughly 20 to 30 billion is spent by corporations into the AI game. That's 3 times more than the VC and the PE. The companies there are not taking bets. They are actually taking options in the game of AI. There are especially tech giants, i.e. high-tech companies like Samsung, Intel, but also the digital natives like Google, Facebook, and Amazon. Those giants, as I've said, have poured 20 to 30 billion into 2016 in AI, and mostly because they want to add artificial intelligence to the pipes they have already built. And there is a lot of M&A. Tech giants, in fact, doubled the rate of acquisition in 2016 versus 2014 or 2015. They're not just buying companies, indeed. They are buying capabilities and talent. One example is, of course, Google with DeepMind. And outside of the tech giants, GM has acquired the cruise automation for more than 1 billion. Now, this is who is investing. Where is the investment made? Well, no surprise. In the world, US is actually the biggest of the 3. And the 2 main ecosystems happen to be in the US and happen to be in Asia and China. That's where the tech giants, R&D, are located. At least, or let's say more than half of the 30 to 40 billion of investment to date, we think are in the US. No surprise. What is more surprising and possibly depressing for some of you in this auditorium is that Europe is barely 3 to 4 billion, despite that possibly some of you as startups have been investing quite a lot of money and trying to make a business out of AI. That's the bad adoption of the investment side. Where is actually the technology being deployed, Eric?
That's a very good question, Jacques, and we've seen where the money is flowing, but the real question is also who is adopting. So we've been talking, as we said, to 3,000 companies across 10 countries, and we see that there are 3 clusters. The first one, that we call the AI adopters, or early adopters, are serious adopters. They are mostly deploying machine learning and computer vision in the heart of the company, and it's already changing the way they interact with their customer or their clients, mirroring the investment side. There is a second cluster. These guys, we call them experimenters. They are companies which are testing, learning, trying to understand if there is a business case behind AI, but they're quite advanced in the usage and the experimentation. And we could say also that 60% of people experimenting this emerging technology to a certain extent is already quite impressive at this stage of the development of this technology. Now there is a third cluster, 40% also. And this third cluster, they aren't experimenting, they aren't implementing, they are contemplators. So we double-clicked into these contemplators. And these contemplators, why are they not jumping into this technology to test at least? Technically, there are 3 questions. One is they have trouble to find the business case behind AI. Second one, which is kind of related, the ROI of the AI investment for them is unclear, but underpinning these 2 points, the lack of technology skills to deploy and to test AI. So that's where they are. After having analyzed these companies based on the adoption, we took another lens and we tried to understand per sector what was the adoption and what was the enthusiasm behind AI. So we live, as you can see here, on a two-speed world. If you see that the horizontal axis is the level of AI adoption per sector, and the vertical axis is the willingness to invest into AI in the future, you see that some sectors are racing ahead. They are investing and applying more and more, while others, on the other side of the matrix, are only approaching AI in very limited ways. Of course, it's not preventing companies in the less advanced sectors to test AI and to be more advanced, but as an average within a sector, this is the picture. So technically, finance, tech and telco, automotive and renewable energies are the ones predicting future demand for AI, and the gap between these sectors and the others is widening. Other questions that we wanted to investigate was, is there a link between digitization and AI adoption? And their answer is completely and fully yes. There is a full correlation between the level of digitization and the level of adoption of AI. So it looks like AI is not something you can leapfrog to. There is no quantum leap into AI. If you're a big company or a medium-sized company, you need to have started your digital journey to be ready to adopt AI. So now that we are knowing that AI and digitization are linked, we need to know a bit more on the different characteristics of companies.
Eric, your point is very simple. Is there, broadly speaking, money to be made in AI? So far, so good for the sectors. Sectors who are basically being digital transformed seems to be investing in AI. But what about companies themselves? We dig deeper into each of the companies within each of the sector and try to figure out whether we find any interesting correlation between performance of companies and obviously what they've done in AI. In fact, we find 5 major features that are quite striking to us. The very first one we just discussed about, companies that are very good and early adopters of AI, the 20% or the 40% Eric was talking about, are obviously digitally mature. In one way, this is something we should know about. If you want to run machine learning, you basically have to have invested in big data. You have possibly to have invested in the cloud and IT architecture to make it happen. And obviously, your system should be digitally transformed to get the data fed into the system. Digital mature, yes. Number 2, larger businesses. Well, that reflects what I said at the beginning. Where is the money being invested and by who? We know on the supply side, the tech giants are actually investing a lot, taking options in the game. But it's what's more interesting is the last 3 features. Number 1, adopt AI in core activities. Adopting AI at core activity means that it is close to the areas where people are making money today. They are creating the most of the value. That's where they invest AI. Point number 2, they not only focus on cost cutting. It's not an automation/efficiency game. It's actually as much an efficiency game as it is a game of revenue growth, of innovation. Very important point. Point number 3, it's actually an AI journey. And that means the C-suite needs to be backing up the journey of the AI transformation. The CEO and leaders we talk to understand and actually back the set of AI technologies. Now, these are the features. For those businesses that adopt, we try to look at the correlation with performance. And in fact, we think that there are potentially interesting, if not significant, rewards. We try to correlate company AI with the profit margin within each of the sectors. In fact, what we find is that the early adopters with proactive strategy using AI, with new business model and so on average, can make up to 5 to 15 points of percentage more of profit margin than the industry peers. Now, obviously, correlation is not causality. Maybe those that are good in AI are actually good in everything they do, hence the correlation. But in fact, we don't believe necessarily so. when we ask these people what they think AI will bring to them, they all think that AI will actually increase the profit margins faster than their peers in the industry. Now, you may be not yet convinced. After all, a survey is about statement, and maybe some people will want to say they are so good in AI, then the profit is made. Now, we look at a different axis, which is our own experience of helping companies transform themselves through AI technologies. We did it across multiple sectors, but I will want to pick 4 of those as a set of diverse sectors where AI can play. Retail, we told you already about Amazon and the click-to-ship 50 minutes versus 1 hour. That's one way to think about AI. You can think about recommendation, the front end when you are in the store. And obviously, you can think about drones, or you can think about robots actually not shipping, but shipping to the front door of your house the goods. That's retail. Second one is manufacturing, very capital intensive. Advanced manufacturing has been there for quite a while with a lot of robots. New robots, clever robotics is starting to happen. That's a sector where AI has a very peculiar aspect. Electricity, downstream's very B2C, upstream, big central, a lot of optimization to happen of a good that you cannot necessarily store, so demand management is key. And last but not least, healthcare. We all care about our health, but at the same time, it's a very big sector, 15 to 20% direct contribution to GDP, and obviously, anything we can do to preempt, to prevent illness and so on is obviously a playing field for AI. We did work in these 4 sectors, as diverse as they are. We find out, indeed, that AI has multiple use cases and fundamental use cases that can really change the value chain with a lot of profit. 3 or 4 examples as key performance indicators as an illustration only. Number 1, retail. We find out that the combination of machine learnings and computer vision can give you up to 30% of online sales higher by using AI. Manufacturing, advanced manufacturing, is a combination of smart robotic and advanced manufacturing. We can reduce by up to 30% the production throughput. Electricity, it's a lot about demand management, the same thing. By using a lot of sensors and data, we manage to reduce by 10, sometimes to 15%, the reduction in the electricity generation cost. Finally, healthcare. Healthcare, again, by using all these technologies and trying to optimize R&D process and so on, we managed to get at least 10% of cost reduction. Now, given the sheer size of healthcare globally, we can think that 10% leads, in fact, to a 1 trillion of saving. So, what have we said so far? We tried to tell you that PE and VCs are taking bets in this new spring of AI. We told you that on top of that, tech giants and other corporates are actually taking options to get talent, to get capabilities in the AI game. We tried to convince you that early adopters in our surveys are actually very good, and on top of that, they all think they will make more money, and they are doing better profit margin than their peers. And finally, this is at least backed up by our own experience working with AI adopters. A very rosy pictures indeed.
A very rosy picture indeed, Jacques. But what about society? We hear a lot about the risk of robots taking all of our jobs. And we at McKinsey are a bit more nuanced. We analyzed all the tasks of the current job in a developed economy, not the job, but the task within the jobs, and we found that absolutely, a lot of the tasks can be technically automated in the future. About 40% of total workforce hours could be automated. It's an average. But when you turn that into jobs, only 5 to 10% of the jobs are actually threatened, and only if there's no job creation due to AI and technology. So, not rosy, but more nuanced. Once we've said that, that doesn't mean that if we don't destroy with AI 40% of the job, that doesn't mean that there is not a transition, there is not an adaptation to be made. Actually, the vast majority of the job need to deeply evolve. This transition will for sure occupy government, but also companies and individuals. And this is a major issue at stake for all of us in the next years. Workers will need a fully different skill set using emotional intelligence and creativity. So, having gone through the financing of the AI economy, the adoption, the impact both on business and societies, it gets down to a few recommendations for businesses. Some companies are already at the frontier, as we saw, and they are reaping the rewards of AI. But for those that aren't, what should they do tomorrow morning? Here is the checklist. So the point 0, which is not on the slide, is you need to have started your digital journey. You need to have begun to digitize yourself. If you haven't done that, it will not work. Then you need to find the true source of value for AI and build a business case about it. You also need a data ecosystem. You need to build this data ecosystem because without data, you cannot train the machine and AI will not work. You need also to know what and who you need. So the skills are essential to make it work. Then you need to integrate all this into the fabric of your company to capture the benefits. And finally, you need a cultural change. You need an open culture because you need to reskill a large part of your workforce. What about governments?
Yeah, governments, obviously, they should not be left out of the picture, not the least because, as Eric says, automation is likely to be a major risk in the economy and possibly with a lot of job redefinition. But bottom line, 3 things we can say. The very first one is about regulation. AI ecosystem starting to be built, trying to regulate at this stage is possibly an overblown. We need to facilitate this AI ecosystem to be built up. And remember, especially Europe, where we still only invest 3 to 4 billion in the system. Now, the second one is support incentive, i.e. in the city level, at the government level. You cannot think about a smart city if you don't have an infrastructure, and maybe the government should lead the process of laying out the infrastructure in terms of IoT, for instance, in smart city, as an incentive to make sure we support the AI system. Skills is obviously something I just mentioned, and Eric did as well. It's obviously an important point for the government, not only because there is a fear, the fear that automation will lead possibly to a job redefinition, possibly to higher unemployment. Now, let's not look at the fear, let's look at the positive of that. What are the initiatives governments can make? And I will give you an example. Despite possibly an interesting reputation, you have possibly heard about a small city in Brussels where I live called Molenbeek. Molenbeek basically developed in cooperation with the city Molengeek. And Molengeek is in fact a workplace where old people from different backgrounds and communities can come and learn in a matter of months to code in deep machine learning. It has been extremely successful and fruitful. It tells you that government can be actually a great enabler of the future. So summing up, AI is not a game. We see is the spring, it's real, and it's here now. So much for the discussion on AI is around hype, and as I said, fear. It's about you. Rather than thinking about the fear and the hype, you should shape the AI ecosystem that we want to see. No, we all need to work together to make this a reality. Thank you.